Toastmasters, and of course, our honored guest. When I read about Melissa's email and talking about first, when I walked into Fellow Seat of Humor for the very first time, I wasn't thinking about first of anything. What I was thinking about is, A, what was Rose Waring, who invited me to the club in the first place, going to do with me? And B, what was going to happen next? So I had to go back over my experiences and say, well, what first did I accomplish? Well, I was trained by the two founders of the club, Colonel Ralph and Robbie Elliott. Now, I came to the club wanting to be able to speak effectively amongst business leaders, which Ralph took care of because he was a member of the Chamber of Commerce. So he was easy. For the finer points in speaking was Robbie's job. And Ralph Elliott was my disciplinarian. And what I mean by that is, if my hand didn't go up fast enough, he would do it for me. If I didn't volunteer fast enough, oh, he would help me out. So, here's some of my first. Well, finished 12 speeches. That's great. Then, as a result of those 12 speeches, if you remember table topics, if you remember being a functionary, well, my business newsletter didn't survive. However, I joined the startup. And those skills that Mr. Elliott, okay, Stephen, volunteer, it helped me out a lot because one of the first things I had to do was go up to our conference room, talk to a bunch of strangers about what I did for a living. And, oh, by the way, my audience, English was not their native language. Second, talked about being a club officer. Invaluable. But let's talk about some first. In the history of my company, when they decided to have their own Toastmasters club, we, as my project, building a smartphone, the company gave me $25 million fictitious dollars and a staff, a real one, to develop another generation smartphone. And that's how I earned this badge. Next first was, that club was dying. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, Kyocera was going to leave the U.S. market permanently, which means we were all going to be laid off or invited to go back to Japan, which I was not one of them. And the requirements for a distinguished Toastmaster had to be completed before the next following year. So, this club and its members sacrificed their speaking time so that I could complete my speeches, because I had a lot of them, and B, work on my project, which I had to share with the club because the club sponsored the project. The other part of the project was the company. They gave me the $25 million and gave me the staff. So if you can imagine me in a conference room like this, and the, shall we say, contestants were senior salespeople, directors, no vice presidents. However, I spent a lot of time in his office. He was my sponsor for this project. And we came up with a great phone. It had 2 operating systems and almost everything you take granted today. Unfortunately, the $25 million that was fictitious, that's all it was. They knew they were going to close, so they never developed another one. Another first. My daughter, who is now 36, but at the time 10 years old, said, "Daddy, have you ever ran for office or know anybody that did?"